This is part 2 of the presentations about the RNOS Schools 2.0 pilot. For this part, we will be talking about school measured savings and how to read your eGauge. So this is one of the two categories that you will be earning points in during the competition, and it's basically the electricity reduction in your building. So we want you to look at things like turning off lights, changing computer schedules, making sure that things are in sleep mode, at the basic level, but then you can also use your eGauge to look at how your building is programmed, and can you adjust that, how your building operates at night and during the day. We have given you the eGauge, as you know, so that has been installed in your school, and we also gave you some tools that will help you evaluate and analyze your building's electricity use. And what we do is once your eGauge was installed, we started collecting your baseline data, so the amount of electricity that your building typically uses. And we will compare that amount to how much you reduce it during competition. So you'll see that percentage difference on your website or on the website for the program, and that percentage change is how you'll be earning points in the competition. We want to make sure that students stick to the proper procedures, and so we do have a do's and don'ts list that we have been working on for quite a few years to make sure that students do have the proper procedures but also stay safe. And we will be calculating your electricity use around the clock during the week, so 24 hours a day during the week, but we will not look at weekends because we know that a lot of times your buildings are used for community events and things like that that are completely out of your control. This is a pie chart that shows the typical electricity use of a school building. And so HVAC is a little bit more difficult. That's the heating and cooling and ventilation system of your building. But lighting is a great place to start. Lighting is a very large percentage of the electricity use of your building, and I call low-hanging fruit. It's a really easy thing to look at, and we do find that most buildings are overlit. And so when you have your devices, your light meters, you can go around and see if your different classrooms are overlit. Office equipment and the other category, those are two other areas that you can look at. Office equipment is things like, printers, copiers, and making sure that they are in power saving mode or energy saving mode. And we know that a lot of teachers have extra devices in their classrooms for mood lighting, space heaters, things like that. So if you can try to incentivize teachers to give them up during the competition and hopefully create a habit that will turn into giving them up for longer. Here are the tools that you were given in your kit that we sent to you. The first one is a light meter, and that will tell the different lighting levels of your classrooms. The second one is a kilowatt, and that will tell the electricity usage of different devices around your building. And then the infrared thermometer is the third one, and that does have a laser, so please make sure that students know that and are aware how to use it correctly, and try not to take each other's temperatures. Now we will get into an eGauge. And you have not been given your eGauge links quite yet. You will be getting them pretty soon. But until then, you can still look at how to use an eGauge and how to read them so that you're ready and prepared for when you do receive your links. This is a typical electricity profile for a K-12 school, and I'm showing you this because you'll see how much it aligns with what you'll see on the eGauge in the next slide. So this is what the eGauge interface looks like. You can see that it's lower in the nighttime, and then as the school day begins, it rises up. Lunch hour is usually the highest, and then it goes back down with the students leaving the building in the afternoon. And then there's probably some kind of after-school activity, some sports or something, where it goes back up again and then goes back down to the unoccupied level of electricity usage. So you'll see this in real time. So the chart over on the very right, there's that little red bar. That will change with every tiny change that happens in your building. So if you turn off lights in a room, you will see that go down. You'll see that dip immediately. So that's your real-time reading. And then, but there's a lot that you can do with these. If your building has solar like this one does, you can see that tiny green line at the bottom of the production of the solar array. And this is a school where they said, oh, we went solar. Like, well, yeah, you went solar, but there's still a lot of electricity being used in your building. The purple buttons are ones that you can adjust that show you different views, such as weekly, the last 10 minutes, the last day, the last 6 months. So you can adjust and really use it to compare month on month or seasons, day on day, and so I will show you those in the next few slides. So yes, there's a lot of data on this slide right here, but it will be less overwhelming once you get in there and actually dig around and discover these for yourselves. So when you click on the weekly pattern or the 7-day pattern for the eGauge, this is what you will see. You can see the high peaks of the days when the students are in there. You can see that there is a non-student contact day where the energy uses rises a little bit, but there's not all the students, so it doesn't go up quite as high. You can see the Saturday and Sunday and how much lower the electricity usage is. You can see evening events. We actually had a school that said, wow, we had a fire drill and it went down to almost nothing. So you'll be able to really, really analyze your buildings. Here's a monthly view. And this shows you can definitely see very clearly the school days versus the weekends. You can see the 5-day weekdays, and then the weekends. You can see the no contact days. And there's a couple things that I want to point out on this slide. First of all, the base load. Base load is that huge pink area at the bottom of the red, or the bottom of the pink area. So that is what it takes to run your building even when it's not occupied. And then all the spikes are the additional electricity usage when students come in and everything turns on. So we want you to focus on the base load and reducing that and trying to get, that your nighttime usage and unoccupied usage down a little bit, but also the spikes. If you're in an area where demand charge is a part of your bill, I mean, in Colorado, it's about I think it's 40 to 60% of the bill is a demand charge. And California, parts of California, it's a 70% of your bill. The money in your bill is actually from the demand charge. So the demand charge is that highest spikes. You can see where the blue line meets. So that highest spike of the month, they take that amount right there, that 15-minute mark, and that's how they calculate your demand charge. So that 15-minute spike cost this school $5,000 for that month. So if you can reduce those spikes, your demand charge will be a lot lower and your bills will be a lot lower. So the eGauge provides a lot of raw data, but we also take that raw data and we process it and make sure that you can really use it to understand your building better. This is a graph that you'll see on your dashboard when you get it. It shows you a day, like a Tuesday versus the Tuesday. And the blue is the Tuesday of a week where the school was not in the competition. And then the red is a Tuesday when the school was competing. And you can see there's a very, very clear distinction of distinct energy reduction during the competition. So until you get your eGauge link, I want to give you access to one that you can kind of play around with. So this link at the bottom, the HTTP address, is the eGauge link for Erie High School, and that's the one that we've been looking at in the past few slides. But you can type in, there's a ton of different schools that will come up, but Erie High School's link, you can go there, and this will be the live feed from Erie High School. And so if you want to go there and kind of, mess around with the purple buttons and just kind of see the data in different screens, please feel free to do that until you get your actual school's link. Here are some questions that you can either do yourself to make sure that you're understanding it, or you can do it with your students or staff or whatever. But once you pull the eGauge up, the live feed from either your school or from Erie High School, these are just some of the questions that kind of give you a run through of what you can do with all the data on the eGauge. So you'll have the raw data, and this is, I think, a very, very cool experiment that a school did recently. We had a school that was competing, and their gym teacher just wasn't participating. Every time he would leave the gym, he would leave all the lights on, and they were those super energy intensive lights that just use a lot of electricity. And they kept saying to him, please, and he just wasn't listening and kind of, ignoring them. So they said, if we show you how much electricity your room uses, will you please just listen to us for a minute? So they took a laptop in with their eGauge feed on it, and they said, let's just show you this. A student ran over and shut off the lights, and they saw the graph immediately drop down 4 kilowatts. So he could see that out of the usage of the entire building, his was 4 kilowatts, which is a lot of energy for one room. So it was kind of eye-opening for him, and from then on, he actually changed his behavior and participated and started turning off his lights. So you can use your eGauge and you can run around the building and you can, analyze how much different wings use, different classrooms use. You'll see it when a fan turns on in a room or something, you'll see the increase in electricity. So it really can help you break down where all the electricity is being used in your building. Here's another process graph. This is a very, very useful one during the competition. So once we get all that eGauge data, we get your eGauge installed and we start collecting it, we start saying, okay, this is how much electricity you use on particular days when it's a certain temperature outside. So these light gray bars are your weather adjusted baseline. So it's how much electricity we expect you to use in certain temperatures. And then the black bar is how you actually perform. So gray is what we expect you to do. Black is what you're actually doing. So you can see that this school had a definite reduction in electricity during the competition. And the weekends, not so much. The weekends were definitely higher usage on the weekends. But again, that's not part of the competition because we know that that's really out of the students' control. But you can see definitely that these students had an effect on the electricity usage of their building. So you'll have, once you go to resourcecentral.org, you'll be able to go to your school's dashboard, and that will be where your eGauge link is, and also all those other graphs that will be very helpful for you to really dig into your building. Here's an example of just a screenshot of what the do's and don'ts list looks like. And again, if you don't really know where to start, the do's list is a great place. It gives you some great suggestions on how to save electricity. And the don'ts are the ones that we want to make sure that the students are following proper procedures as well as just staying safe. So this is kind of what I think is a pretty good plan of attack. So lighting, as I said, lighting is a very good low-hanging fruit in your building. A lot of buildings are overlit. So we want to make sure that you're measuring the lighting levels of your classrooms. You can use your audit to do so and calculate all the lighting levels. But it's not something, we don't want students up on ladders pulling bulbs out of ceilings. Make sure you're checking with your custodian and building staff so that you're removing the bulbs correctly, or having them do it instead. Computers, making sure, everyone says, well, our computers are programmed. Well, that's great, but a lot of times that gets overridden by people where they try to, there's an override so that they can keep the computers up at night or whatever. So it's a good thing to check your computer scheduling. Appliances, I'm sure there's a lot of extra appliances in your building. Space heaters, refrigerators, and see if teachers can at least consolidate and maybe share some of these devices. And if they're not willing to give up their mini fridges, a full fridge uses a lot less electricity than an empty one, which is kind of interesting. Custodians, please make sure that you're including your custodians. They know the building better than anybody. They know the ins and outs and the behind the scenes stuff. And typically, they really like to be included in this. It just gives them kind of a new thing to focus on other than their day-to-day job. And on that note, please make sure to check in if there's a night custodian, because a lot of times night custodians have pretty interesting cleaning habits where they'll turn every light on in the building and then turn them off as they clean. Well, there's a better, more efficient way of doing that. And then again, scheduling, if you have an expert from your local community that's going to come in and work with your club, or somebody else in your district that can kind of look at the schedule of your building and what time it kind of ramps up in the morning or what time it shuts down at night, that is a great place to look into, or a great thing to look into. Okay, that's about it for now. Please, again, make sure that you email me or call me at any time with questions. All right, have fun.